Businesses thrive by knowing customer insights because today's insights are tomorrow's facts. At iResearch, we live and breathe insights. And despite searching high and low, we were unable to find a customer insights podcast that answers one of the most important questions in business. Why do customers do what they do? So we launched one. Hi, I'm your host, Darshan Mehta. On this episode, I'll be talking to Steve Bigari. He leads the restaurant division at Soundhound. Steve has over 4 decades of experience in the restaurant industry. Steve describes himself as a leader in disruptive innovation for the restaurant industry and a true Imagineer of the restaurant business. Steve's vast knowledge of all things restaurant challenges traditional paradigms and drives dramatic change in the business. Soundhound is a premier provider of restaurant solutions with a focus on technology and customer experience. One of Steve's notable achievements was when his platform processed 23 million automated restaurant transactions in a single year. Steve is also the co-host of Techuisine, a restaurant technology podcast exploring the latest trends and innovations in restaurant technology. Welcome, Steve.
Thanks, Darshan. I'm honored to be here.
Let's start with, I mean, you have quite an interesting background, but I want to know, where did it start? What are the aha moments that have brought you to where you are right now?
It's funny. I think we're going to have a number of them that just come out naturally in my storytelling. But I have to tell you, when we originally spoke about this, you asked about a personal one. And I think the life-changing personal aha was when I was 9 years old. I was just a boy. My father I came from a poor family, and my father was a furniture salesman and won tickets to a Packers game. And as I sat there at 9 years old, I decided that I was going to be a Green Bay Packer. So I had to go to college. I was the first kid in my family that went to college. I was fortunate to be able to go to West Point, where at that point I figured I'd be a general and never play in the NFL. But you know, they say God laughs at your plans. My oldest had health issues. It all worked out great. Don't worry about that. But that caused me to have to cut that career short. And that transformed my life. I helped build a Ronald McDonald House. That led to me meeting Brent Cameron, who was my first professional aha. Brent had opened 63 countries for McDonald's, not restaurants. Amazing visionary. He hired me to run his restaurants, and Brent is the man who led me to be with you today.
So tell me, what led you to the restaurant business itself? It sounds like you were you were at West Point and being a general, and then tell me the transition to the restaurant.
Darshan, never could have imagined that I'd be a McDonald's restaurant operator. Never for a moment in my life envisioned it. But you have to meet the moment, right? And when my daughter was born with a bunch of birth defects, I spent a lot of time in the Ronald McDonald House. And as people, anybody who's had one of those, another great personal aha moment. I can't believe, see, you're doing it. You're doing it already. I'm sitting in the Ronald McDonald House in Denver. My daughter, who's now nearly 40, beautiful, has given me 4 amazing grandchildren. So, just fast forward. But the next day, she was 4 months old. They were going to cut her skull from ear to ear, remove it, replace it. And I was pitiful. I was sitting in there looking at the people walking down the street by Denver Children's Hospital thinking, how can they just be walking down the street? They're going to cut my daughter's skull open. Fast forward, this little boy, Michael, 5 years old, jumps up on my lap. He's got purple dye marks from a brain tumor, and this kid is going to die. And sitting with his parents in that moment, I realized how fortunate, how blessed I was to be able to have hope. This family had no hope. And that was really what the experience at Ronald McDonald House meant to me. I had to help replicate that. So while I was in the Army, I helped build the Ronald House. I was serving my 3rd term as board chair when Brent bought the restaurants in Colorado Springs and said, I'd like you to come and run them.
Wow. For those who don't know, maybe you can explain what exactly is the Ronald McDonald House?
Ronald McDonald House is a home away from home for families of sick children that are receiving care, and it's generally life-threatening care at children's hospitals across the world.
And so obviously things worked out very well for your daughter. She's perfectly fine. You have now 4 grandchildren. And sounds like Ronald McDonald House played a very pivotal role at a very critical time in your life.
She's amazing. And the 30th anniversary of that house, she was the president of the board who helped oversee the construction of a new $11 million replacement house.
So you got into the restaurant business with McDonald's, and tell me what happened then, because obviously you've done a lot since then in the restaurant business and becoming quite disruptive.
As a McDonald's operator, I was kind of foisted into that scenario because Brent was tragically killed climbing Maroon Belt, Colorado. And I was able to acquire one restaurant and got pretty good at that. So they started throwing restaurants at me as fast as they could. And in a matter of a few short years, I had a dozen of those things. And that was quite a bit to keep up with. I'm never satisfied with anything. I always want to push the envelope. And gosh, I just could not beat. There was this pesky operator. I love him. He's a dear friend. But there's a Chick-fil-A guy by the name of Rob Taylor. And I just could never beat Rob at anything. He had better food. He had better employees. I couldn't beat him. But the one area I could beat him in was drive-thru. So I ran to that. And that really helped create the multi-lane drive-thru, because in order to beat him, I had to think completely differently. I couldn't beat him using traditional means. And that's when I talk about disruption. That's a great example of that. So I'm standing there thinking, how am I going to beat this guy in anything? Well, the one thing I can do better than him is drive-thru. So I made it my passion. And I knew that drive-thrus hadn't changed since 1947 when Red Giant created the first one. They were really the same. And then in about 01, we transformed that and created multi-lane drive-thrus, which really disrupted everything.
So before you did the multiple drive-thru, what were you doing different in the drive-thru, and how were you beating everybody else? What was different about your drive-thru?
Yeah, I think operationally, we focused on it. It drove everything that we did, every decision that we made. Everything was about capacity. And then that causes you to, you'll hear a recurring theme. We listen to our guests, and then we remove the friction from their lives. And that makes our employees happy. That makes profitable operators a happy operator. So you put smiles on your guest faces, you're going to put smiles on your employees' faces, and then you're going to be a profitable operator, and that's a happy operator.
It's funny, often I talk on this podcast, if you can do one of three things, your chance of being successful are quite good. And those three things are, can you save people time, money, or make it easier? And I suspect that you were doing all three of those things in your drive-thru. But there's one more thing.
All three of those things in one more, if I could. All three plus one more. It's fun.
Well, it's funny. I was going to say that there's a plus one to all of this, and that is if you can evoke an emotion, then you're talking about, not just a 3x, right? You're talking maybe 10, 12, 14x, you never know. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. And that is, you not only did that, but you added an emotion, and fun is something everybody likes.
Yes.
When did you realize this magic formula of making things simple, faster, cheaper, but not only that, you're evoking an emotion?
Yeah, I think as it evolves, and it's fun because the yardstick you can always measure in drive-thru is cars. And so every day, if you think about gamification of your life and those around you, it's a very simple, fun game that you can play. Hey, how are we going to beat what we did yesterday? And if it's one car, it's something to celebrate. And so we did that one car at a time, and over a decade moved from 60 cars an hour to 374 cars an hour in a single lane drive-thru. Single lane, multi speakers, triple speakers.
So what made you decide to go to multi-lane? I mean, what was the inspiration for that?
I had to beat Rob. It's the only way I could beat Rob, man.
When you say beat him, you're talking about having more capacity run through.
I had to crush him. I had to crush him in capacity. I remember once standing out of my parking lot I had a 3x5 card in my hand, and I'm taking off cards that are leaving my window. And he comes over to me, he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm counting cards. Who's busier?" And he said, "Well, I am." And he points to this long line that he's got wrapped around the building. I said, "Really? Do this for me. Every time a car leaves your window over there, give me a number. 1, 2, 3. So I'm keeping score for 5 minutes. And I go 1, 2, 3, 4. He goes 1, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2, 9, 10. And at the end of the hour, I had 360 car capacity and he had 60. So said, listen, friend, I've never deposited a line. I deposit what comes out of the car, and that's money.
It's funny. I can just imagine the conversations the two of you have.
Still, I love him like a brother today. You know, they say iron sharpens iron, man, and he made me better.
That's nice. It's nice. It's good to have someone like that, right? That pushes the envelope. So it's funny. I just recently opened a restaurant in Bangkok here. I told my team we exist for two reasons. One is to delight, and the other is we need to evoke an emotion. And so with every dish we're doing in the restaurant, I'm trying to get to wow, if we can. And the reason is,
Darshan, people remember how you make them feel, and you'll be very successful with that.
yeah, because ultimately, I think nowadays people are no longer buying products; they're buying experiences, right? And that's what's
Yeah,
is setting things apart. And I know if I can evoke an emotion, one of the first things they're going to do is want to share it, and that's ultimately what you're trying to strive for.
that's right.
So tell me the next progression, because you have quite a journey here. So we did the multi-lane drive-through, and then what was the next challenge you had on your radar?
Well, I think the big thing was to do that, I needed a call center. So I became a call center operator. And it was in '07, right after we had broke the drive-through world record, which stood for 14 years until, of course, Chick-fil-A beat it. And now they crush it every day. But I
Don't tell me
would
that was
say
Rob. Was that Rob?
it was Rob. Rob helped them to create the system that did that. Many operators beat it today. It's it's very rewarding to watch that happen. But I sat and did the math and realized that in order to scale this at McDonald's, I would need 70,000 agents whom I could pay to work 3 to 4 hours a day at a minimum wage job. And I knew I didn't want to be that guy. And it was then that I knew that I had to get involved in AI. I was ready for that then. And that really brings me to the coolest aha moment I think I had in my life. And that's when I met my new boss, Kayvon Mahajer. Now, remember, I ain't had a boss since Brent before 2000. Okay. And so I go to meet with Kayvon, who is absolute brilliance. Okay. He started Soundhound. It's funny because our journey started in roughly the same year. In 2001, when I did the first multi-lane call center enabled drive-through, Kayvon was in the dorm at Stanford building Soundhound. And he knew that AI would transform everything. So as I sat and listened to his story and watched the parallels over the next 20 plus years, I realized that at these inflection points, we were both realizing the same thing. And then in 2020, both of us realized the key to everything AI in the future was drive-through. Because if you can solve for drive-through, everything else is child's play. Travel, hospitality, retail, you name it. Drive-through is the toughest environment on earth. So as I sit there and spoke with him, he was like, so remember, I'm thinking, man, this guy, PhD, Stanford, machine learning, robotics, built his company out of a dorm, absolute brilliance, right? So I'm thinking, this is the smartest man I've ever met. And I said, listen, friend, your journey is brilliance. Mine is brute force. I just run things over. And he said something profound to me that changed my life. He said, Steve, I believe if we bring these two companies together, 1+1 will equal 200. And I'm telling you, the only thing he got wrong was it's not big enough. It's probably more like 1,000. And I think it's because it has all those ingredients, all the things you were talking about, plus fun, plus breakthrough technology. What my company, SYNQ3, brought to the occasion was the highest density of marquee restaurant brands ever assembled. 10,000 restaurants actively taking AI orders, more than 100 million successful AI orders. And what Kayvon brought was 20 years of excellence, of technological brilliance, products that will blow your mind and change the world. And when you put those two things together, magic happens.
So give me an example in detail, exactly what you did at SYNQ3. what was Soundhound doing? And now what are you guys doing now that you're part of Soundhound? That's different.
Let me try to frame that in friction elimination. Okay. So the best example I have of that is what we're doing in the drive-thru. So let's unpack drive-thru a little bit. When you talk about what voice AI can do, drive-thru is the harshest environment in the universe. So you have high noise, multiple speakers, kids hollering from the back seat, and accents. And those three things make it very complex for AI to solve anything. You don't have those in any other use case. So once you can figure that out in drive-thru, which is in itself a complex and sophisticated transaction, then you can extend that into everything. So I think the first thing that I realized with Kayvon is Soundhound had hundreds of millions of devices on the Internet of Things. And that's central to changing the world. Every device that people have, TVs, cars, computers, you name it. But more importantly, every device that restaurants have built, online ordering systems, mobile ordering systems, all that technological infrastructure that you can leverage. So now you put the power of voice in the hands of people who are able to utilize the most powerful tools in the world. So when you put those two things together, for example, my phone contains the apps that I use. Now we can leverage those apps with our voices. In a drive-through scenario, you no longer have, if you think about a double or triple lane drive-through, or what Chick-fil-A does today, 4 order takers standing outside in a dynamic environment, moving with the car, collecting payment from all 4 people. You have dynamic order and payment points. Well, AI represents the ultimate dynamic order point, right? Because everybody can order from wherever they want, whatever device they want, whenever they want, and that device knows about them. It knows their routines, their restaurants, their favorites. It knows their payment methodologies. It can sequence them. It can align production with arrival, turning a kitchen into a Six Sigma just-in-time machine. So in your restaurant, imagine if you could have 2 or 5 or 20 minutes notice before a guest would come, before you had to prepare their food. It would make it pretty simple, wouldn't it?
So basically, if I understand what you're saying, I can use my phone. I can be on the way to your location. I can place the order. You know who I am and everything. And when I come up there, I just give you a number on my phone, or how does that work?
It's entirely up to you. See, that's the other great part that makes it fun. It's entirely up to the guest. How do you want to do it, Darshan? Because if I give you the choice, if you will share your location with me, you'll never wait in a line again. You can make that choice. Now, you can say, I don't prefer that. I'd rather wait in line than have you know where I'm at. That's fine. We don't care. We'll just tell you, let us know when you arrive. But this works as easily in the current speaker post environment as it does in that extended, more parallel ecosystem. If you think about multi-lane drive-through in its current configurations across this great country and many places on earth, it's really about taking a linear system where you have a single speaker and a car going up, and every transaction being dependent upon that first car. You then create a parallel system where you don't have that interplay. One is not dependent on the other. Then you can extend that into the ultimate parallel system where anybody can order from anywhere at any time. But more importantly, the restaurant doesn't have to focus on that work until that work is upon them. And that changes everything. The problems have always been the same. In my lifetime in restaurants, it's always about staffing, training, costs. It never changes. It's Groundhog Day for the better part of 40 years, okay? This addresses all those things in a variety of ways, which we can unpack if you'd like.
I can imagine that COVID was nothing but a major boost to what you're talking about doing.
Yeah, well, COVID was it pushed a lot of great brands over the AI. There's a lot of fear and trepidation about AI, and rightfully so. I believe the ethical use of AI is a top priority. But remember, at Soundhound, we're never going to take over the world. We're just going to get you lunch better, cheaper, faster, and friendlier. That's it. Okay. So you don't have to worry about us doing any of the other stuff. But we do have to protect your data and be very meaningful and thoughtful about how we protect you and how we deploy this, because it's not good enough to just make your life better. We have to keep you safe and protected. So we're very focused on those things. And when you hear about the other products in the portfolio, you see that they all fit in this ecosystem of making everything better, cheaper, faster, and more fun.
So tell me about this ecosystem a little bit. What's the rest of the ecosystem?
So I think the first thing, the cornerstone of drive-thru, and that's my focus today, but we can talk about full service restaurants too, if you like. Let me just quickly run through drive-thru, and then we can talk about the implications of that on full service, because I think that's what you're interested in for your restaurant. So if you think about drive-thru, the first product is dynamic interactions, and that's really, it eliminates turn taking. If you think about how you interact with bots today, the big frustration is turn taking. So what dynamic interaction does is it simply listens to everything that you have to say, and it only takes action on those things that are order intense. So it's about 3 times as fast as traditional AI ordering, which is typically faster than human ordering. So, and it also presents visual cues to the person placing the order through the drive-through speaker, through the phone, whatever device you're using. So it makes it easier, more accurate. It's a wonderful environment.
Can you give me an example of that? If I was on my phone, give me an example of what you're saying.
I'll tell you what, I'll do one better. I'll send your viewers a link. My alma mater, McDonald's, did this wonderful video on their AI system, which is breathtakingly good. They posted it on X a couple of weeks ago, and I took that same exact McDonald's transaction, and I did it through dynamic interactions. And you'll see that we do a 52-second transaction in 20 seconds, and you'll be able to post that on your site so people can watch it, because explaining it would take me an hour. But when you watch it, you go, the first thing you'll say is, I could have thought of that, because it's brilliant. So dynamic interaction is the cornerstone of the order taking process. But now you have employees. Some employees are very new. So we have a product called Employee Assist that takes the entire, leveraging large language models and GAI, it leverages those really powerful tools to make that first day employee the most experienced person you have. They have all the knowledge of the brand at their disposal.
Please, if you don't mind, give me an example.
A guest comes up to the person taking the order in the drive-thru. It can operate in 2 different ways. They say, what's on this new sandwich? It tells them in their ear. The sandwich consists of this, 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 and this. And it can show them on their display. So they can say, the sandwich has this on it. So they don't have to wonder what it is. They know, okay, I'd like one of those. Well, the AI can place that order for them. It can recommend upsells. So you can have a personal experience. You don't even know that the AI is doing that. But simultaneously, that individual doesn't have to learn how to input on the point of sale, because they're inputting with their lips. And more importantly, everybody in the front of the house, back of the house has access to the entire database of that brand's information to make them smarter. And this is the other thing I think people misunderstand about AI. It augments humans. It makes humans better. I like to call it the Alfred to your Batman. That employee can focus in on the guest because we remove the mundane from them. We remove the repetitious from them, and it allows them more time to spend with the guest and putting smiles on their faces. And then finally, we have a smart answer product that is really more about phone answering, that can be used by any business, anywhere, anytime, big, little, SMB, enterprise, doesn't matter. And again, it uses LLMs and generative AI, plus all the data no hallucinations, all the data the brand wants to put forward to comprehensively answer a phone and get guests exactly where they want to go without going through complicated phone trees. So there's just a host, and there are many more, many more. And we have the most genius engineers that you could ever imagine. And many of those, like me, came from the restaurant business. So they understand these challenges that guests face.
What are three things you're seeing now in the restaurant industry that you think are going to really reshape things moving forward?
Well, clearly the same three things exist, right? Staffing, training, and cost. That those don't change. That will really help. That's being accelerated and exacerbated by laws that are changing that require brands to pay more for people. So they're less able to get staff. So people talk about AI replacing staff. You can't replace somebody that isn't there. They don't have enough staff to open the restaurants in many cases. So it supplements that. I think that some of the laws that are changing will accelerate that. Certainly the multilingual and global aspects of that will accelerate that. I think LLMs and generative AI are accelerating everything. So now our ability to be everywhere in our first strategy, pillar one strategy, is to be everywhere on the Internet of Things, right? So every device, we're in millions of cars and TVs and fridges, you name it, phones. Our second pillar is about engaging in the largest number of transactions. What do you buy the most? Food, restaurants. It's the number one thing people transact, especially with your lips. You eat it with your lips too, but that's a whole nother aside. And accelerating those transactions is really everything is moving so quickly right now. I've never seen anything like it in all my years, how fast it's moving.
We've all often heard the words, the phrase become a disruptor or be disrupted. And I'm curious, what does that mean to you and what led you to become a disruptor?
I'm a student of history. Being a military man, you learn very quickly that those who don't know history are destined to repeat it. So you can choose to repeat it if it's good, but you don't want to repeat it if it's bad. I think that disruption is a term, really for your listeners, I want to say if they feel more comfortable calling it transformation or innovation, I think that might help them frame it a little bit better. The term disruption, I believe, was coined by the late, great Clay Christensen from Harvard, who really talked about these things. We talked about the disruption of steel with mini mills. Just simple examples that you know of in your life, how Blockbuster got destroyed by Redbox and Netflix. That's disruption. It's not step change incrementalism. It's massive. It's massive. And it is better, cheaper, faster. Period. Hard stop. Guests win when you disrupt. So let's call it transform because they'll feel better about that.
Well, one of the best examples of that is actually, I don't know if you remember what happened with the high jump. There was a guy named Steve Fosby.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. He didn't just change the way you trained. He changed everything about the sport.
So go ahead and share with the listeners what we're talking about.
So everybody, this is not a high jump for everybody. This is not a high jumper's body. This body can't get 3 inches.
Oh, come on. Let's do a high jump. Come on, Steve.
The football player's body. As I recall, everybody used to high jump forward over the bar.
Exactly. People were going forward over, and at some point, you just reached a limit. You just couldn't do it.
Nobody could go any higher. So Dick Fosburn or Fosbury,
I think it was Steve Fosby came around.
Steve Fosby created the Fosby flop. And he basically turned his back to the bar and jumped over backwards using all that momentum. If you think about the physics, he curled up into a ball and then launched his body back over and then didn't have, you think about your knees or your ankle touching the bar, they were going the other direction.
Yeah, because then you can undulate your body over the bar and get more height. And he just totally, that was a major aha moment.
And it's classic disruption. That transformation is great, and that's exactly what we're shooting for in restaurant.
Yeah, that was a great example of that. When they did it, completely transformed the entire sport and it went a whole different direction and everything. So I'm curious, what do you think are the requirements? Like, what are three things that are required in terms of a mindset to be able to do that?
Well, I think for the operator, you have to understand that you got to frame your entire life in having happy guests. And you have to listen to those guests and think about what you're putting them through currently and what they want in the future. How do you remove stress and friction? And those stress and friction always equate to time and hassle. So if you have a stressed out employee who's overwhelmed with their work, it's hard for them to relieve stress on the guest. But if that employee is now a superhero, think about Batman's superpower. He had money and Alfred. That's it. So that's what AI does. AI becomes your Alfred and helps those employees do their jobs better and be more confident in what they do. So I think you have to have a guest focused mindset. And the other thing is you have to be ready, willing, and able to press people, because there's a lot of people out there selling vaporware. The claims that are made about some of these products are really laughable. And that's the primary reason why Kayvon and I brought our companies together is we don't do vaporware. The things we do are very easy for people to wrap their brains around. And I routinely, when I talk to clients or prospective clients, I give them 7 questions that they should ask when somebody's trying to sell them something. I'm happy to share those with you if you think it's appropriate.
Sure, go ahead. What are the 7 questions?
The first one I like to ask is, can you give me a demo right now? Can you show me how it works? And better still, number 2, can we do that in a live environment, in an actual restaurant that's working today? Number 3, are humans used anywhere in the process? Because people like to use humans to nudge along AI, which isn't ready yet. Another one is, how long until the promise is realized? What you're selling me today, how long will it take for me to achieve that promise in the restaurants? The next is, what's the process by which you roll out restaurants? Our team once launched over 2,700 Chipotles in a single day. That's scale, man. Where's it live? I think I covered that one before. The next one is, any patents? And the last one is, do you use your own tech stack? Because ultimately, if you're buying from somebody that doesn't own what they're selling, that could come back to haunt you. So I think those are simple questions by which you can vet solutions. The other thing I would caution people to do is, don't go buying expensive hardware solutions today. Because if you think about the disruption of that is Tesla, for example, you get new software updates all the time in Tesla. Your car's getting better every day, and other EVs, right? You don't need to keep buying new hardware. The car gets better every time you drive it. So before you go run off and buy an expensive piece of hardware, I'd call us at Soundhound, because I think we can find a way that you can integrate with your existing hardware and solutions rather than buying a bunch of new stuff.
So tell me, what's on the horizon for you? What areas or new technologies are you finding curious and of interest to you that you want to explore more?
For me, I'm just an old restaurant guy. I'm an old hamburger guy, man. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. The last few weeks, I've been driving around, flying around, visiting. I have the greatest clients in the world. Just pinch me. Restaurant clients that are absolutely the cutting edge thinkers of everybody you'd ever meet. And I've been able to fly around and visit with them and listen to their needs, wants, and desires, and then share with them all these cool tools that we have. And the excitement, the enthusiasm is unbelievable. Now, for me, the biggest aha that I've had, I'll never forget. I was at a board meeting last week, and Larry, one of our board members, afterwards, we were having a beer, and he asked me a question about one of our products, about the Smart Answer product. And it's one of those things where 2 days later, Saturday night at 2:00 in the morning, I shot up in bed and thought, my God, this is, and I'm not going to say what it is, this is going to change everything. It changes everything. But I had to run to the Remarkable and write everything down, because that's how my brain works. I have to dump it out. And I got pages and pages and pages. And the epiphany or the aha, I think that was most telling to me was that this will touch everything in your life. This, what we're doing in drive-thru in restaurants today, in fast time, in the next year or two, you will start to see it appear in every aspect of your life, in retail, hotels, hospitality, travel, everything, because once we crack the code on drive-thru, and we have cracked the code on drive-thru, it's not coming, it's here. The tipping point is we're past it. Now everything goes much more quickly. And that gets further accelerated by Gen AI and large language models. It's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time.
So if you could have lunch or dinner with anyone in AI or the restaurant industry, who would it be and why?
It's funny that you say that, because my entire career, I feel like I'm having lunch right now with somebody. My entire career, every year, I make it a point to go and visit someone. I have a 100% close rate. I call a stranger and say, I've heard that you're great at this. This is what I'd like to learn from you. So I have a regular practice of doing that. I don't kiss and tell. I will tell you that conversation with Larry was one of those. This conversation with you was one of those. And I'll have many more. The one with Kayvon was life-changing, but I will have many more. And I don't have any regrets. I think that I've been so fortunate that I get to talk to everybody that I want to talk to, and I learned from every single one of them.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Steve, and I look forward to what you're going to do to the world of drive-thru and make my life easier, faster, and more fun.
Thanks, Darshan. It's been a pleasure. I hope that we can talk about your full-service restaurant at some point too.
Sure. Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Getting to AHA was brought to you by iResearch. To find out more about us, head to iResearch.com and make sure to search for Getting to AHA in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else podcasts are found. And don't forget to click follow to ensure you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you for listening.